Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. I'm starting by saying sorry for my voice, but I'm a little bit sick, so bear with me. So today is gonna be a different video from the past, mainly because I really wanted to talk about the issue that is plugging like Conquest in BF6, which is the, as we all know, the IFV MR missile bug, which by the way is not just the MR missile, is a more in-depth issue that most people don't know, but is really present into the main game. So what is this bug about? Most of you already know, like, is it has been advertised by a lot of people already, and I think like there are millions of players that know how to replicate it. Not all of them are using it, but you still need like one or two people that are consistently using it in every conquest match, and it gets like pretty hectic and impossible to play for not only air vehicles but also for ground vehicles, because is a I will explain the problem in a little bit of a depth right now, and you will understand why it's not an issue just for air vehicles. So how do you replicate the bug? I did not want to advertise it because it's a game breaking bug, but since we are at the point where, as I said, pretty much almost everyone knows how to do that, I will just explain it for the sake of understanding, and also to make it like prevalent, so DICE has to take a stand on it as soon as possible. Even though a patch is already planned, but it's not out yet. I'm just like hoping that we will just disable all the SOFLAM laser painting capabilities in order to make a small patch waiting for the actual patch coming out in upcoming weeks. Again, how do you replicate it? Basically, it's pretty simple. In the IFV, you just go in the second seat where you have a laser painter gun, which is the second like gun on the gunner seat. You left mouse button, like meanwhile you're looking at a target, and it just paints it. You can do that obviously also with a normal SOFLAM or with the tracer dart, which I haven't seen yet in the game since it's like one of the latest unlocks. So the moment you paint the target remains painted for I think 20 seconds, which is a crazy amount of time. In previous games, you needed to held the lock, like with your SOFLAM. The moment the target was going out of your reach, the paint was going out in like 1 or 2 seconds, something like that. But now, the moment you paint it, it remains painted for I think 20 seconds or close to it. So after you have painted the target, all you have to do is to, if you're in the IFV, you just switch to the main seat on the driver's seat. You press 2 where you have your MR missile, and you just lock the target, which luckily it needs to be in your line of sight in loss, which is line of sight. And after like half a second lock on time, you just shoot it, and it does all the job for you. The same goes with, as I said previously, it's not just the MR missile. Is basically all the ground-to-ground local missiles that has ground to air capabilities if the target is painted. So it's javelins, the AGM from the attack heli, the guided missile from the tank, and I think that's it. But it's pretty prevalent. So it's like you have a lot of gadgets that does that. So the behavior is always the same. The moment you lock on your air target that is painted, the missile goes. It just flies and follow the targets. You, as a pilot, do not hear any lock-on sound. You just hear the first acquisition lock, and then it's just muted. You hear nothing. And even if you flare, the flare does not work and just go through, and you are dead. Like, those missiles are, all of them are one-shot kill. One thing that can save you, and that's also part of the problem, is that if you fly close to your base, you have your base anti-air, which is like a stationary anti-air that is like on BF4, which is fully automated. But instead of just protecting the base from enemy aircrafts that are flying by, In this game, in BF6, the stationary AA, which is the base AA, destroys all the incoming fire that are like rocket based. So tank shells, rocket pods, those, MR missiles, javelins, stingers, all of the rocket base like fire. If you're shooting with your normal gun or with the attack heli gunner gun or with the HMG, LMG of your tanks, the base AA cannot intercept them. I mean, for obvious reasons. I mean, maybe they couldn't like code it properly. I don't know, but it's not doing it. But by saying that, yes, you're protected from the bug if you're flying to your base. But at the same time, if you combine what I just said, so you go with the IFV, you stay inside your base uncap, which is your base space where the enemies cannot go in and they receive like the auto boundaries like warning. So if you stay there with your IFV, with your tank, with your attack heli as well, I mean, you can do the bug with the attack heli AGM I just said. Like, it's not just the IFV issue. The IFV is more easy to do, like solo. That's why it's more prevalent, by the way. So if you stay in your base, like in the uncapped, you cannot get killed. You generally cannot get killed. You can stay there the whole time, and I've done it. I have some footage. I also tweeted a clip of it, which went pretty viral. And yeah, it's pretty easy. You just go there and you wait for someone, or even yourself, or a teammate of yours that paints the air vehicles for you, and it's done. The only way you can die is you need like someone in the enemy team that like comes to you with a C4 jeep, or as I do, because I countered them myself, you take a jet. The fighter jet is the best one. You fly really high trying to avoid to get bugged. You go really high and you just afterburn top down into them, like straight up. You just ram them from the top and you kill them. But obviously you also destroy your jet and you will die as well if you are not so close to the map. That's the only way to counter the tanks or IFV that are doing the bug in their uncap, which is not a great way to play the game. As I said previously, this is really problematic for the flow and the actual gameplay loop of every conquest and even escalation matches, for two main reasons. As I said, you just need one guy that does that, and it makes completely random and unreliable flying air vehicles during the match. And it's like a cascade effect. If you don't have air vehicles in the enemy team, your team can be like more free to do stuff. So like tanks are not getting killed, at least as easy, and the infantry can like just run on the open field, and your air vehicles can be like more free, which can happen also if you don't have the bug, but it's way more less prominent. You see what I mean? Also, we can argue that if both teams have one IFV that does this thing, it just makes the whole game pointless, because then you don't have air vehicles in the entire battlefield, and no one will use air vehicles, and so you also will have an IFV that is a infantry fighting vehicles that does not fulfill its role, because its role is not only to fight infantry with some like defensive capabilities against like armors and stuff, but it's also, I remember, it has 6 slots in order to take your team and push them into the battlefield, into the enemy bases, kind of, I mean, into the enemy's territories, in order to like make a push or make a play. If you don't have that, like, what's the point of having an IFV? You see what I'm saying? But aside the IFV, I mean, as I said, you can replicate this bug with every guided rocket, like the Javelin. So I think this bug, this issue, this problem, is really important. I think it's one of the biggest issues that we have right now in the game, even though it's not directly felt by the majority of the player base, but they feel it like indirectly, because the conquest matches then will become more unbalanced, and even if they don't clearly see that what's the problem of like having less fun, because you have all the matches that are either you spawn kill them or you get spawn killed by getting capped all the flags and so on. People don't realize it, like they will not like be, oh god, my match is so like, this game is so bad because the MR missile. No, they just don't realize it. It's just, okay, why this game is so unbalanced, you know? And they might lose interest into the game. Also, let's say you have one guy that wants to fly an helicopter, he hops on the helicopter, it flies, and he just dies without any warning, nothing. He does one, he does two, he does three times, and then it's like, oh god, I don't want to fly helicopter, this game is bad. I can't. What is this? And yeah, I think it's really problematic. Some people are saying, oh, but this is realistic. This is how it works in life. And it's not a bug. It is intended. And I'm saying, no, it's not. Because it doesn't matter how it works in real life. Because in real life, it's another pair of hands, you know. Like, this is a multiplayer arcade shooter, which it's made in order to, you know, like, it's not even simulating a like war. It's just, okay, you have these tools that are made for you to use and try to have fun in a combined arms matches. Okay, also people are saying, oh, in all Battlefield games it worked like that. No, it's not true, because in other Battlefield game you had the ECM, and people are saying also, just introduce the ECM. It's not that easy. You had the ECM for BF3 and BF4, but in reality it never worked like that, because in BF3 you could dodge, you could flare, not ECM, you could flare the Javelin plus Soflam. People don't know because people are not good at the game, obviously. But in BF3, if you flared like 2 or 3 seconds before the missile was gonna hit you, the missile was just going, like, it would just explode. So there was a way to dodge it. And it was intended, it was not a bug. On BF4, sometimes flared worked, sometimes flare did not work. It was not 100% hit ratio against the guided missiles. The ECM surely will kind of fix the problem, but they are not introducing them now, and is not supposed to be like that right now with flares. Why? Even the devs says that, like, this is a bug, it's not intended. And since we don't have another countermeasures, like, this is like vehicle designers on Battlefield 6 said these words, okay? It's not intended, and if we don't have like other countermeasures like the ECM, there is no way we are gonna make a mechanic that is uncounterable. So Battlefield has always been, you have a mechanic and you have a counter mechanic, so it's not intended. Case closed. They already found the bug and a fix to it, but they're not pushing it out yet. It will be coming, I think, in the next patch, which we don't know when. Can be in 1, 2, or 3 weeks, we don't know. So what I'm asking right now is just to disable it, like disable all the Soflam capabilities from the Soflam, obviously, and also from the vehicles that are capable of laser painting, in order to make like a small patch, like pretty easy patch. They can disable them. They can disable them when they want, by the way. It's not, they don't have to roll out any patch. They can just do that server side, by the way. They already done it. They just did it for the spawn beacon on the Assault class. They disabled it server side for some small maps on some small game modes like King of the Hill, Domination, Team Deathmatch, because it was like breaking. The spawn beacon was breaking like some spawns. Maybe you were going like under the map or stuff like that. So they just said, okay, before the fix we will just disable it. So if they done it for the spawn beacon, and I think they have done it also for something else in the past, why don't you do that for the Soflams? And I'm telling you why. Because we have the challenges. The class challenges are tied to getting kills with the 2 Soflam designator like targets. And I think they're afraid of players saying, oh, you disabled me this thing right here. How can I do the challenge? But I think that's less problematic than alienate our entire player base into not be able to experience the main game mode of Battlefield, which is Conquest, and a secondary one which is also pretty fun, which is Escalation. I don't think it's worth it. So that's why I'm kinda hesitant of making videos about like air vehicles right now, like guides and stuff. I could make them, but probably the meta will shift in a few days and a few weeks. And I'm kind of waiting on the edge, trying to understand what will change, what they will do with the whole ecosystem, which are air vehicles gameplay. And I could definitely do that. I mean, I luckily I have enough experience in order to make myself comfortable into playing into these situations. Sometimes it's kind of impossible. For example, on the Blackwell Field map, that's like impossible to fly. I'm not gonna lie. On that map is literally impossible. But on other maps, it's definitely doable. Like Manhattan Bridge, Miracle Valley, Liberation Peak. You can play around it. You will die sometimes to them, but you can kind of work around it. So yeah, I'm kind of disappointed on their decision making right now. It really looks like they are throwing all their forces and like bats into the battle royale. That's why they are focusing a lot into the infantry gameplay. They want to gather into the Warzone, Apex Legends, even though it's still EA game, but they want to gather into the battle royale, Call of Duty player base in order to bring them into the Battlefield franchise. And they're kind of putting aside what made Battlefield in the first place. So hopefully things will change in the best and the better. Probably yes. I mean, this bug will be fixed like in a matter of weeks, I think. And but aside that, we still have a lot of issues that are plugging, like the conquest, the air vehicles gameplay, but vehicles gameplay in general. And if you have problems with vehicle gameplay, you also have problems into the whole core gameplay of the game. So let's see what happens. Sorry for this small of a rant. This is not a rant, this is like a constructive feedback that I'm trying to give to DICE or Battlefield Studios and to the community that might not be aware of these issues. This was a little bit of a rant, pretty unscripted, so sorry if I was a little bit confusing as always, and I hope you are more aware of what's wrong right now with the main Battlefield game, which is the Conquest escalations. Even Breakthrough, but Breakthrough you don't really have air vehicles, but it's still kind of, the vehicles themselves are kind of broken regardless. So again, thank you. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe for more, follow me on Twitch for live streams, and I'll catch you on the next video. Goodbye, GG's.